Hey, welcome back to JG3 Reviews. My name is James, and I like to review fountain pens and ink and paper and all of that good stuff and share with you things that I find all over the pen world. And today is an exciting one. Goldspot reached out to me not that long ago and said, hey, would you like to check out our new collaboration between McKenzie Diamondcast, oh, that's a check, between Narwhal, that's a check, and the Goldspot store, that's a check. And I said, well, sure I would. That sounds exciting. And this one is an exciting pen. So Tim McKenzie, if you don't know, is the guy behind McKenzie Diamondcast materials. And they make some really cool resins for various pen makers. I have one of the Jim Hines pens that has a McKenzie Diamondcast material. Absolutely gorgeous. And what Goldspot commissioned is a collaboration between Narwhal with their original Plus pen, which is a great vac filler pen. I have one of those, fantastic. And the McKenzie Diamondcast material. And this one is based on the Nebulosa Laguna, so the Laguna Nebula. And what they've done is to take the natural colors of the gases and dusts of the Laguna Nebula and create this, a material that reflects the dynamics of the nebula. And I think the more you look at this, the more you can see that they understood the assignment, right? This is fantastic. So today we will look at the features of a Narwhal Original Plus. We'll put ink to paper. We'll test out that broad nib, which is, for me, a new nib from Narwhal. I've not tried their broad nib before. So yeah, I think there's a lot to potentially be very good here, but we never know until we dive into the details and look at how it actually puts ink to paper. So let's flip that camera and get started. And when you get your pen, it comes in this nice simple packaging that I think does make a nice presentation. There's a little bit of an appleness to it, I think, in a good way. I think they've changed our perception of a lot of packaging choices these days. Narwhal, and of course their logo on the top of the box, and then a little bit of information here. Again, the model here is an Original Plus, and it is that Nebulosa Laguna resin, and this one is a broad, which I'm excited about because I've reviewed their fine and their medium, but this would be the first time that I've reviewed the broad. You pull that little tab and you get, of course, a little bit of user guide and warranty information. It is a vac filler pen, so if you've never used one of those before, I would just look over these right quick and kind of orient yourself. It's a simple thing. I think they're pretty easy to maintain, pretty easy to clean, straightforward, but it doesn't hurt to look at the instructions. Or, you know, if you're one of those people, you just toss them aside. Then you find the pen, and it will come, of course, in the little plastic protective sleeve, because this is something that you want to take care of. This is a good looking pen. Let me just let you take a gander there at that resin. I am a fan of McKenzie Diamondcast resins myself. I've got a couple others I'll show you here in the size comparison of other models, past models that I have reviewed here that used his other resins. And I like the style and the materials and the kind of an organic look that a lot of their material had. This particular resin takes the colors, as I mentioned earlier, of the gas and the dust and everything in the nebula and uses those as the inspiration for what you see here. And I think that that turns out to be really cool. I really do like that. And you can see very quickly why they would want to use that as inspiration. It makes for quite a striking material and a good-looking pen. And if you're into astronomy and space, then that gives you even more reason maybe to be drawn to this really good-looking material. And I've reviewed in the past a Narwhal Original Plus. I have found, I've been using this one for months now, this to be a very reliable pen. The quality is really good, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It has not had issues with dry out, no issues with hard starts, and no issues with leaks or anything like that. Been a very easy pen to clean, to maintain, to refill, and to keep on writing. And it has become pretty much a always in rotation pen for me. A few basic design features. They're going to be similar to that pen. Of course, you have at the top that little metal cap there on the finial. Then you have the clip, which is a good stiff clip, very usable. The metal band, which has the original spelling
of narwhal because this is the original plus. And so they kept that original spelling on this pen. And it is on both sides. Then you come on down fairly straight along the barrel to the gold trim here. And then, of course, you have your knob here. The way you would do this is you would open this up, pull back, push in, and then it will pull the ink in. Let me just show you on another pen that's empty. This is the Asvine, and it is also a vacuum pen, but I don't have to worry about issues here, and it's a demonstrator. So the same thing is going on inside that Narwhal Original Plus. You would open up the knob there, and this is a safety valve that keeps it from leaking as you change altitudes and things like that. Very nice thing to have. And then you pull back out, and then as you push down, it creates a vacuum here, and it widens right here. Inside the barrel it widens, and when it hits the wider opening, I don't know if you could hear that, but it allows, in this case, air, but in the ink bottle ink, to then be pulled into that vacuum, and it fills the pen. Then because of this safety valve, you can tighten that down, and the only ink that is able to come out of the pen is what is already in. There's a small reservoir here in these pens, and then of course there's whatever still is in the nib and feed. Then there's no more possibility of any ink coming out. It prevents leakage because you don't have any air pressure able to push ink down this way as you maybe change altitudes, driving through the mountains, getting on a plane, that sort of a thing. When you want to write, you simply back off, open up that valve, and you can write for quite a long time because these have a really good large ink capacity. Okay, so it works the exact same way for this pen and for this pen. It's just that, I didn't want to squirt ink out the end. So I've got that valve open there as if I were going to write with it, and that would allow a free flow. When we take off the cap, you take it off in 1/2, about 1 and, what is that, 1 3/4? 1 is right there. And yeah, 1 3/4 turns. It can post. I'm not going to with this pen because, I want to protect that material, so I wouldn't. It's very well balanced, especially when inked, and very comfortable, long enough for most, even larger hands, so I wouldn't worry about that. Very, very good ergonomics on these pens. You come down to that grip section. It's made of the same material, which, when it's something like this, I really like, that it's the same resin material as the rest of the pen. It just looks really cool. You can see that it has good threading there, and you can see that number 6 nib with the narwhal right there on the nib, some nice decorative scrolling, and the only thing I don't see is a nib size. Am I just missing that? I keep grabbing the wrong reading glasses, so maybe it's on there. I'm not seeing it, but you do have that nice amount of tipping material because this is, again, a broad nib. And so far, every nib that I've gotten on a narwhal pen, because I've got a couple here that I have reviewed. I had a subscriber, very friendly and generous to the channel in the loaning of pens, who loaned me a narwhal a while back that was a medium, just a fantastic nib. Every one of them that I have used, it's had great nib, and I've really enjoyed them. They are steel, and they're number 6s. And then, of course, a standard plastic feed. All right, so first we have, again, that narwhal with that Nebulosa Laguna resin. Really, really like that. I want to show you some other Diamondcast resins. This one is also from Narwhal, and this is the Voyager in the New York resin, also a McKenzie Diamondcast resin. Excellent pen, great writer, a little bit larger. I think it's kind of funny here looking at the camera. It doesn't look that much larger than the original Plus, and the original Plus is a good sized pen, but it's not a giant pen. This one to me seems bigger. It's a little bit larger in diameter, but when I put them side by side, I don't know, it doesn't look quite as much bigger as I honestly thought that it was. And then I have this Jim Hines pen. My wife gave this to me. She got this at the Dallas Pen Show, the only time I've gotten to go a few years ago. But this is also a McKenzie Diamondcast resin. This one made to look like the waters and the greenness of the earth and the clouds. Just really a beautiful material. And that pen, too, a little bit larger, maybe a little bit more similar in shape. All of these Really, really fantastic pens. And then, just standard size here, you have the Lamy All-Star. All right, I'm going to skip the posting because I'm not going to post the original Plus. This one does not post. I don't post this, and I do post the All-Star. However, this gives you an idea. So very similar in length, all these pens. It's a pretty, standard length, but long enough for most hands. If you have small hands, it's not giant, but if you have giant hands, it's not crazy small either, is it? All right, so a couple of things before we get to writing. First, just a reminder, when you want to write with this pen something more than just a quick note, you could sign papers, write a quick note without opening this valve up most of the time, but you are going to want to open that valve so that you get the full free flow of ink. All right, so this is, again, Narwhal. Now I'm going to spell it the way it's spelled on the pen, okay? This is what's on the cap band. I know that they have changed that, and I'm just going to abbreviate here for original and plus, and this is, again, a broad nib. And you can tell, can't you? I never did find an indicator on the nib, but you can sure tell by the amount of tipping material that that's definitely what we've got. Check that for flow. Not bad at all, especially considering that I keep stopping and talking with my hands. And there is, this is a fairly stiff nib, broad generally. You're not thinking about the line variation so much, but you can get just a little bit of that if you coax it, just a little, and not a lot, and I wouldn't push it at all. It's really not what it's for. But, if you gotta, you gotta, right? Anyway, ink today. I got out an oldie but a goodie, at least I think so. This is a Birmingham Pen Company ink, but it's back when they were still contracting that out before they went back to all their own recipes and formulas and making it themselves. I love their own original inks, but I've had this one long enough that it's one of their outsourced inks, and it is the Imperial Purple. I like it. It's a nice, well-behaved purple, and just kind of just a good purple. And I think, well, that's not the only color going on here. I think, Golden Sands would have been nice here and here as well, but I wanted something just really simple, and I think that pulls the purple of that resin that's in the background a lot out quite nicely. Looks really good. Oh, I made a mess. Did James make a mess? You don't go rolling around your pen in your ink before it's dried. I told you I was going to give you a few tips here and there. That would be one of them. You don't roll your pens around in wet ink. It's no reason for that. I don't know what in the world you're doing there. All right. Since I might not know how to behave here, basic penmanship and pen care in the moment, at least I still know a small portion of the alphabet, Sometimes you just got to be glad for the things you can still retain. That's just the way it is. Had lunch with friends. We had pizza. A couple of us were talking about some trips to New York City and traffic and driving there and some of the strange things that you see every now and then, So I kind of have New York a little bit on my mind. Let's do our speed test since we're talking about driving in New York. All right, this is real time. I think I had a turn. I had a turn somewhere in here. That, I don't know, probably me. But I think let's try it again. That seems to be keeping up just fine. I've written with the pen a lot, and especially today, and not had any issues whatsoever, and haven't with any of the other narwhals that you just saw here or others that I've tested. But yeah, I think that was probably me because the pen is doing great. So let's talk about the pen. Okay, first, we've established already beautiful resin. I've told you my experience with more than one just even here on the desk, and they've all been great, reliable, comfortable writers. I think they feel good in the hand. I have really been impressed, since this is the same design. I've really been impressed over the long haul, months writing with this pen, with just the feel of quality of the original Plus itself. And that's going to be true for this pen as well. So that I would definitely keep in mind. It's just a good, comfortable pen, a really good ink capacity. I particularly like vacuum fillers because of the ink capacity. You can fill it up instead of, for days, you can fill it up. And sometimes if you've got several pens in rotation, you might have ink in there for weeks. And it's not going to dry out, and it's not going to be a problem. I've not had that happen with any of these three pens. So let's talk about price. So this pen is about, twice-ish of this pen. The last time that Goldspot did this particular resin, it was in a Leonardo, and that was about twice the price of the pen, making this tremendously good value. So you have that. You've got a good, reliable pen. They've used a tried and true, at this point, a tried and true design as well. And I think you can do quite well with this pen. Negatives would really come down to, taste and preferences. And really the only thing that I would say be sure and consider is, being a vac-filled pen, do you mind whether or not you can see how much ink is in it? But what do you think? Do you like the Diamondcast style? I do. I know that's a personal preference, but I like it. I think that Goldspot and Narwhal and McKenzie Diamondcast, I think that's all hit no strike. But what do you think? Share that in the comments below. As always, I welcome your feedback and appreciate your insights. And as always, I really do hope that you have a wonderful week. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next review.